stop thinking. I learned that from Carr. Don't use your brain because it'll drive you crazy. So we said, Marcia's a full ordained minister. She's been through all of everything, and then on in the metaphysics and beyond. She's way beyond that now. She's fifth dimensional consciousness, if you will. I'll explain that in a minute. But anyway, we asked her to marry us. So she said, sure. So came out, we married us on a piece of land before we dug the hole. And we were all just one big happy family. Her folks and us would take trips, we'd pack sandwiches and go out to Sycamore Canyon, unexplored areas around Sedona, and Sycamore Canyon, and went caves, the bat caves that we found and everything. We just had fun, all of us together. Well, that went on for a while, and then I'm not going to go too far into that, but eventually, I'm going to skip over a little bit, and eventually, Ruth's kids lived over in Durham area, or I can't think of it, it's over outside of Chico. And her kids kept, Mom, we can't come and visit you, it's too far, we run out of gas, we blow tires, you're too far away. So I started a locksmith business there in Prescott, and it became very successful. But she wanted to be closer to her kids. So I said, well, I don't know, we'll have to just let it be and see what happens. The next thing I know, a guy shows up from Oakland, California with his wife and his family saying, I want to buy you out. And had a little locksmith shop. And I said, well, you teach me the locksmith trade, and I will cash you out.
But you didn't tell him about the underground house.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, I skipped there. North, I'm sorry. Senior moment. Okay. All right, when Ruth and I came out there, we said, well, let's start building. So we got this piece of land, and we started digging in with our hands and shovels, and said, this is going to be a monstrous job. We wanted a 45-foot diameter, the same size as the craft. We wanted to use sacred geometry in everything we did. Every stone, every brick, everything we used had to be done by feeling, not by thought. So we started digging, realized, oh, this is going to take forever. And a guy shows up and says, I got a backhoe. I need money. I'll dig your hole for $500. Wow, you'll dig it down where we want it? Yeah. Well, we don't know how deep we're going to go. And he said, that's all right, I'll dig it and we'll figure it out. He dug it down 9 feet and hit bedrock all the way across, 9 feet down. Coincidence or accident, I don't know. So we hit bedrock, and then we had this big view, and if you're interested in seeing this, if you go to the website, bluestarenterprise.com, and go to one of the discs that says Underground Home on it, I've got frame by frame of where it started and where we had to give it up. And then there's a video at the end of it you can watch when I was showing some people the house. But we did get it, we were starting to build it, and my wife kept saying, you're hauling flagstone from 20 miles away, and our pickup was worrying the pickup out because I had like 200 loads and we didn't have anything to build with. Flagstone. And I tried to build the first root cellar in the side of the mountain. I put a place for a root cellar, and I started putting these flagstones together, and I'm not a mason. I didn't know how to get them to balance, so they keep falling over, and I couldn't get the mortar right, and I couldn't get them level. So one day she says, that's simple, just get cinder block. So we called up, we had to get a break on getting cinder block. We got cinder block, we got it put out, and we started building this round 45-foot diameter circle. We were inspired to use the crystals that were on the land. There were tourmaline crystals all over this. Tourmaline outcrops. Tourmaline, if you're familiar with it, it's like this. There's green and black trench. So we knew we were, we felt really good about this piece of land, and it had chosen us as much as we'd chosen it. And we didn't find out till later, because the Hopi Indians came down after we built our underground home and blessed it, and said they honored it because it was like a kiva and a hogan in one, and it was on sacred land, and they were very, very proud of it, which gave us confidence in what we were doing. So, we ran on free and abundant energy. We ran on the sun, we ran on the earth and condensation from the air. We had solar panels. We had seconds they had a company called Photowatt that was selling solar panels like 20 cents on the dollar, because they had blends in them. And we found out that we were working just as good as the new one. So we were buying solar panels. We got solar panels. We built a solar oven. We made a solar hot water heater. We had ham radios, which you could patch in like a telephone. We were talking all over the world for nothing. It didn't cost us anything. And we were lighting up the mountain. Because of the design of the way we were reflecting our lights, we had the name of the road was Blue Star Way, because one night we were driving home, we saw this blue comet or whatever coming down this where we built the house eventually. So we said, well, it looks like a blue star to me, and that's been our that's how the house started. In fact, the name of the road today is Blue Star Road. But I don't want to get too far there. I want to get back into 0 point. But anyway, so we built the underground house, and it went very well. And I thought, well, I'll just kind of retire from locksmithing, and I don't have to do that anymore. Maybe I'll be a consultant on building homes, or showing them how to build up, help them build a new home, and how they can build. The house was evaluated at $180,000, and it wasn't even finished yet. And this was in 1980. And at that point, we had only put $5,000 in the bricks, the lumber, and everything. So they invited us to talk at Yavapai College, and I gave a lecture on build your own home. And there was an architect in the audience that said, $5,000, that's what I charge to give you a blueprint on how to build a home. So I said, no, you can do it yourself. And so I thought, well, I'll have a new profession, I'll become a consultant. Well, somebody hired, they didn't really, yeah, they did hire me. They never paid me, but they hired me. They said, design, I want to build a piece of land, and I want you to do the same thing you've done here, and we'll see how it goes, and then I'll pay you. Well, I drew up the plan for it. It was kind of simple, round and round. Everything in nature, even the adobe homes, if you notice, the way the Indians and the way the Native Americans build, they round the corners, everything, so that the energy flows. It doesn't hit an echo, or it doesn't hit a square building or concrete. And even the roofs, you get a heavy snowstorm, the roofs can cave in, but if you've got a round roof, even a slightly round roof, everything will go off of it. That's another story. But anyway, so round is fine. In fact, we had a garden. The Indians taught us this. They said, when you build your garden, make it round. And the animals, we had a bunch of rabbits that would come in. We had a square garden at one time. They come in and eat the carrots and stuff. I said, no, build it round, and they won't come in. We didn't know it, but that's what we did, and that's what happened. The rabbits would come up, we saw them. They'd come up to the rocks around the garden, and they wouldn't go in to eat. And we'd throw them out stuff, but they'd never come into the garden. It's just a phenomenon that I don't, to this day, fully understand that it works. Thought I'd bring that up. We had air wells. We built our own air well. We realized we don't need a well, because they came out and said, well, we'll charge you for dowsing your hole, we're going to charge you, and then we're going to have the well guy come out and he's gonna charge you. And it was getting up into 3 and 4 and 5 digits before we even thought about getting a well on the property. So I said, well, what do we do? And the idea came to us, and through a friend of mine who has Rex Research. If you want information, you might write down rexresearch.com. You'll get information you've never heard of. Inventions and ideas that have been going on forever that nobody knows about that work. And he turned me on to air wells. He said, no, look into air wells. So air wells are run like a convection facility. You build a dome, and you have slots at the bottom where the air can come in, and then as the heat rises, the moisture in the air drips. You have rocks, sharp points on the end, so the water drips down into the system, and you have water. Well, we started building an air well, but before we got there, I had an ice chest, and I found by just cocking it and leaving a 45-foot at the edge, taking the lid and just cocking it so there was a little opening at the edge. The next morning when I came out, there was about a ½ an inch of water on the bottom. I said, whoa, well, that's the principle there, and we'll get better. So I started fooling around, and I made a better facility, and I found that, eventually I could get about a ½ a gallon a day of pure water from the air. So then we built a big storage tank, and we let it drip, drip, drip all we wanted. We had all the water we wanted. We didn't have to pay for water, gas, electricity, and nothing. And we were running on totally free energy. Well, this woman hired, I gave her the papers, she took it to an architect. And the architect says, you're crazy. We don't work from a radius point, because it's all radius when you're ground. We'll build you a square house or a rectangle. That, don't even think about it. Well, she decided to listen to the architect, because he's got, credential, and I'm just winging it on my own out here. I mean, our house, we were back there a month ago, and it's still standing, it's still in great shape, no cracks in the walls, it's still as beautiful as it ever was. And so it's lasted since the 80s without one bit of maintenance to maintain it. Anyway, okay, well, I'm in the 0 point here, because the way we built the house, and she was a very strict lady, in sacred geometry, everything had to be in line with nature or forget it. You're wasting your time. So this became quite evident when I realized at night, when I was tired and the sun was going down, I was laying the last cinder block with a mortar, and I 1/16 of an inch off. I said, oh, I'll get it tomorrow, I'm tired, I want to go to bed. I went up and went to bed. We had a trailer that we were working out of. In the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, the house is calling me. And I kept, what? Come down here and fix this brick. You're not going to get anywhere tomorrow. I said, well, what? So I went down, and my wife came with me. We had to put on lights. So she's mixing mortar at 3 o'clock in the morning, cement. I'm breaking this brick loose and finding out where it feels there, that's it. And I couldn't let it go until I felt that feeling. And the whole house from that point on was built by feeling. Every rock, we had to put crystals 4 feet apart in the pillars. We had tourmaline and quartz crystals equally divided all the way up around the periphery. And this house was anchored to the ground because originally I talked to somebody from the planning department. I said, I want to build a levitating house. And they said, come on. So they said, no, you're going to have to anchor it. And then I said, I want a toilet that is in Sweden, is completely recyclable. You don't have to, it just perfectly, the methane, everything goes back into nature. I want to put this in my house. And they said, no, you can't do that. You got to get the big hole septic tank, leach line. I said, money that cost a lot. It cost me $2,000 for the septic system. The rest was for building the house. But anyway, I'm getting that the intuition that led us to build a house and get everything on point, on where it's supposed to be, is what later became, and I equate this back to car, 0 point. Understanding what 0 point is. 0 point is, it equates to a fifth dimension of consciousness, doing what we are. We're thinking and acting and realizing life in a third dimensional atmosphere. So when you can say quit that and you want to go further, you want to get off the squirrel cage and go higher, you start designing your words through word sculpturing. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That means, and I learned this in Hawaii, they taught me word sculpturing. You can take words and dissect them and realize what you're saying. It's not what you think you're saying. Because people use words in ways and they think, well, that's just a word. No, it's power. Every word you speak is tremendous power. I can't think of a bunch of words right now. Realize, yeah. I was sitting with a fellow knight one time. We were going over metaphysics and knighthood and everything. And we were really engaged in a deep conversation, and we saw the difference between seeing what's guided from spirit opposed to what's guided from the brain. And usually what's guided from the brain is your eyes up here, these little cameras that are taking pictures. They only see 24.5 cycles per second, which means everything in this room is vibrating on my frequency at 24.5 cycles a second, so that I can perceive everything. All these parts of me, or all these parts of you, are visible, attuned to 24.5 cycles. But to see natural law in operation, to see the beauty of the flower of a tree, to be able to converse with those, you have to get into spirit and let the spirit of who and what you are come through. And the word came right out of the sky and said, use your realize. And then we acquainted with your realize. And then we thought of the Indian teaching and the Tibetan teachings and everything about the third eye and what that is. Your realize is attached to your intuition, which will guide through your system up to your realize. And then if you look at an object and let it come through you from the inside, instead of your eyes out here, you'll experience beauty beyond compare. Marcia and I have looked at a flower for hours, one flower, watching it develop, watching it grow. It is so beautiful because you're seeing it from your inside, from the real world. Out here it's going blah, 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 because you're busy. But so we eventually had to sell the place, and I had to eventually go back into locksmithing because this woman had her house built, and incidentally the house fell down the hill after she had it built. So it didn't do her any good. And I was sorry because if she had built the house that we designed, it would have still been there. Let's see. My wife wanted to go back closer to paradise because her kids lived over here in somewhere close to Chico. So I said, okay, because I was raised there anyway, and I liked paradise. So I said, okay, well, let's go back up there. So we sold the business. This guy showed up from Oakland. He said, I just sold a house that I paid $20,000 for. I just sold it for $280,000 cash, and I'm ready to cash you out. just like that. And I said, well, okay, I'll train you and everything. And I think I sold it to him for $30,000, the whole business and vans and everything. And and I taught him the business. And he's still there, I think, in Prescott. But Ruth and I moved back to Paradise. And again, I wanted to start building prototypes to see if I could get going. So I started a small research venture. I had a shed, and I had small equipment where I started building prototypes, and I needed to go further. And I went to town one day to get some parts, and I came back, and this was after Ruth was urging me, go on with your passion. You want to build spaceships, you want to build spaceships. Don't stop, because if you stop, you're never going to get there. And I said, yeah, tomorrow. But I was putting in rose gardens, I was putting in fences and stuff around the property. And I was kind of ignoring her. She's a very, very powerful lady. I mean, she was the most powerful thing I've ever seen in the way of science. She knew everything. And so I went to get parts one day, and I said, oh, well, I'll get some parts. And another lazy day, I'll just go out and dig a hole and see what I can do. So I came in, and she was laying on the kitchen floor dead. She died. But she's laying there, and she's looking up, her eyes wide open with a big smile on her face. And her eyes were glistening. And I got the feeling, I can't wait for you. I had to go. You know, you were dragging your feet. That's the feeling I got. And that taught me, don't put off tomorrow what you can do for today, because if you do, you'll lose your opportunity. The windows are only open at certain times for you to go through. And if you don't use that portal to go towards your passion or your dream, you may get another opportunity within a short period of time, but sometimes it takes years. But that's the feeling I got. I called Marcia right away, because she's always been our best friend, because we communicating back and forth. And and Marcia was married at the time, and she said, well, let's converse on the phone, calling back and forth, so figure out what you want to do with your life and everything. I said, well, it's not going to change until I see floating homes. So she said, well, you want to talk about this? And I said, yeah. And so we started talking to people about it, and all of a sudden, Project Camelot showed up. I don't know whether you've heard of that or not, but it's on the internet. You can dial in Project Camelot. And I was one of the first few people they interviewed. Now there's a whole string of them, and they got some incredible information on there if you want to tune into. Well, they came over, and I want to say that 0 point equates to dowsing, because 0 point is a point that you reach in your consciousness eventually, where everything is and is not at the same moment. Your brain can't comprehend that. Everything is and isn't at the same moment. It's a feeling that you have, to knowing that we are everything and we are nothing simultaneously. But what we are is creative beings that will never end. So what we make of what we've got is what we get. So, does that make sense? So it's the feelings that you follow, knowing that beyond want, beyond desire, I'm still trying to build a spaceship, and I'm having people come from different levels. I've had billionaires give us a laboratory, in Phoenix, Arizona. They gave us a warehouse, a mile-long warehouse with machine shop and tool and die and offices and everything. And they said, here, we're ready to build your spaceship. We had one of our staff, Michael, that was working on hydrogen motors. He's developed a way to run cars on water. Past tense, he's already done it. So we got, because of our intent and because of what we were doing, and this is all fifth dimensional consciousness, it's up above the thinking realm, it's a feeling realm. We got contacted by a representative from Mexico that wanted to use our device to power 2 million, an infinitesimal amount of VW cars that were taxis, that were burning fossil fuels. They said, if you can run it on water, we want you to make 2 million of them. We'll give you the contract. And they said, here it is, just start building. So when this opportunity came up and this guy gave us this facility, we thought, well, we're in, this is it. We're gonna really get somewhere. But Marcia was holding me back. She said, be careful, walk slowly, use your intuition here. I thought I was, but I guess my desire got a little ahead of my intuition. But here's all these facilities available. And make a long story short, he said, well, bring the water device over, and we'll get that all straightened out and get Mexico involved, and we'll get the money, and we'll start building spaceships. So we trusted everything, and we said, okay. So we had Michael send over the plans, all simple geometry, all simple stuff on how to run your car on water. And we presented it to the guy, and he said, well, come on down Sunday, I want to show you something at the shop. So I went down with him, and he's a brilliant person, and he knows everything about a machine shop and everything else. So he decided to build one himself, and he built one in 4 hours or 5 hours that I was there. He built this whole thing exactly on the specs. And I said, yeah, okay, now we're ready to go on this, or what? What's going on? And he says, well, you know, we don't need Michael anymore. We've got the device, and Mexico's offering millions of dollars here, and I'd like you and Marcia to come down tomorrow because the Mexican people are going to be here and we're going to take pictures. And so I realized that I'd fallen into, a position I didn't like, and I just walked out of the place, and I've never seen him since. I just walked out, and that's happened again and again and again. We've had situations where they want strings attached, and I can't blame them if they're in a monetary system and they are investing in petroleum. They don't want to see the petroleum industry fold because their money's going to fold. So we're not trying to overcome. We're not trying to give any resistance to or take away anything that's already in existence. We want to add to it, that's all. And we have a facility in Hawaii. We're on hold. It's a resident project. And I'm part of that. We've got things built now, waiting in the wing for the consciousness to raise high enough. And that means just changing our ways of looking at ourselves, our environment, and the way we do things. Every word, like I mentioned before, and I got off track on word sculpturing, like realize. Another word is, say, one on a negative that we use as a negative connotation is the word depress. You know, you say, oh my gosh, they or he or she is depressed. Better leave them alone, better, oh, that's terrible. And we all get minor bouts of depression and everything. So, because I learned word sculpture, I said, well, I'm going to dissect that word. And instantly I got, well, what is that? That person is in a deep rest. They've gone into their own world, their own mind, away from the world. I'll come out when I'm ready. Time out. I'm going in here, and I'll be out when the time comes. They're going into a deep rest. When you expand your consciousness and accept that, then you've taken a look and turned it into a good connotation, a wonderful idea, instead of one that you don't even want to talk about. So, and there's item after item after item, words. Just take any word you want and dissect it. I can't think of a bunch of them now. I should have wrote some down, but they're all that way. They all sound like they have a negative thing, and you take a good look at it, and it's all positive. And if you want to use positive and negative. But the 0 point is both positive and negative. And the 0 point consists of seeking the truth. It's like dowsing. And I dowsed a little bit, not like you guys, but I have dowsed a little bit. And Marcia dowsed it. And Dell, have you dowsed? Yeah, Dell dowsed it. But what we're really looking for, beyond what we think we're looking for, see, the brain says, well, I'm looking for water, I'm looking for gold, I'm looking for this. No, we're looking for who we are. Where's the creative power of the universe? And it's not outside of us, it's inside of us. And when we find who and what we are, it's the richest feeling in the world, because now Marcia and I have given up wanting anything, or even hoarding anything, although Marcia's got heirlooms that go back from generations that she's not going to get rid of easily, so I'm stuck with it for a while, right? We're going to talk about this. Well, it's a sense of downscaling until you get where, and I now honestly feel that anything I need will be there when I need it. So there's no waste in hoarding it. So I'm free of all my, I get 25, I used to have 25 drills and 25 everything. And now I don't need them anymore. I still got a few of them because they're my standby. But really, when it comes down, in fact, I've had situations where I've been, my guides or my nature or whatever it is, has deliberately put me in a spot without my tools, and I felt, oh man, I've got to get to my tools. And I didn't have them, and all of a sudden, the creative powers came in. Oh, well, just that simple, use this. It was, somebody had a flat tire, I think it was. I didn't have a jack on board. I usually carry one, I didn't have one. So I had to use my limited knowledge of leverage. And I went and found an old log, and I put it on a rock and lifted the car, because I didn't have a jack, while we were changing the tire. Simple. And then when we were done, put the log back on the rock. And that's just an example of knowing who and what you are, creative beings. We can anytime we need something, not necessarily want something, although that's true too, it will be there. If it's in the divine plan that you brought into, with things that you're working on that you want to complete before you go somewhere else or do something else, I guess, then it will happen. It will happen. You just set your intentions on what you want. Marcia and I had a case where her kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, live in Phoenix, Arizona. And I wanted to be back in paradise. I really am glad to be home, because I missed it all these years. I wanted to come back. So I said, well, let's go to paradise. She said, well, you know what? My kids aren't going to like this. And they didn't. They said, you're not taking Mom and Grandma and Gigi away from us. We want her here. And they got pretty adamant about it. So I said, well, I don't know what we're going to do, but we separated for a while. We said, well, you stay with the kids, I'll stay in paradise, and we'll work it out. And it was hard, because there's an internal thing, excuse me, when you find what equates to your twin flame, or whatever that is, soulmate, I don't know what it is, but I feel it. When you are away from your love, wherever that is, your work or your partner, you ache inside. And that ache will get you back together one way or another. I don't know how it works, but it does. No, I'm not going to tell him that one.
Oh, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we were so separated. When I was in Paradise and she was down in actually Chino Valley, I got so, I had everything going in Paradise. I'm a member of the Religious Science Church, and they have activities outside the church and inside the church. And they have Diksha lessons, they have yoga lessons, they have meditation. And Bill introduced me. He took me around and introduced me to all this stuff around town. And I had a life that you could only dream of. I had friends on every level. I could go into every realm of meditation or metaphysics and find home because we all talk the same language. But I still had this ache inside. And it hurt so bad one day. I was driving up Skyway. That's the main street of Paradise. And I saw a sign that said Al-Anon, which is Alcoholics Anonymous or something. And I know they follow the 12-step program or whatever. And I said, I don't know. Go find out. I didn't go. So I pulled in there on this is the brain, not the heart, it was the brain. Pulled me in there in my car, and there happened to be a woman that was packed. Cars parked all around and people inside. And there was a woman walking towards the building, and I rolled my window down and I said, excuse me, this is a place for addicts, right? You know, that. And she said, well, yeah, what's your thing? And I said, I think I'm addicted to love. She didn't know what to say. She just looked up in the air and just didn't know what to say. She said, goodbye, and she just walked out. And then I looked back, and now how dumb, but that's that longing inside, you know. So then I don't know what happened, and eventually we started talking again. And we realized she felt the same way where she was at. And we got back in touch with each other. We talked on the phone. I own the place in Paradise, free and clear. I own the land, I own the house, and I pay $100 a month for everything. I'm free and clear. So I'm not willing to sell it. I'm not willing. And she says, well, okay, I'll see you on your next trip. So I said, well, wait, you want to look around? Let's look around. And so we were looking at places, and they were all too expensive and stuff. And we met a realtor that had a heart, but you could feel his energy. And so while he was showing us around at these different places, and they wanted $350 a month just to buy. You can buy the land, you can buy the trailer or mobile, but you still had to pay this $350 a month plus your utilities. Well, I was about ready to give up, and Marcia asked this guy, don't you know of anything Rob wants to own our own land and not to pay so much? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, and a series of coincidences happened. His wife happened to be a realtor, and she was selling this home. Just happened to come on the market a day or two before. And it's everything we wanted. It's almost identical to the place we had in Paradise. You get everything, and we had all the facilities, indoor swimming pool, tennis court, workout room, library, everything. After you buy the land, you pay $40 a month. That's it, forever. That's all you ever have to pay. So
That's the HOA.
homeowners. And they take care of all the maintenance, and the trash and everything. So I said, well, we can't pass this up, but I didn't have enough money then because I bought this place. So we went through, we got into heavy meditation and started praying a lot and sleeping on things. And suddenly we realized we could put a down on it and carry the rest. And we knew our intuition would guide us. So everything turned around, and within a week or 2 weeks, we had another place. And it's being paid for $300 a month. And that's all we have to pay, and $40 for the thing. So now we have two places. It sounds like we're rich, and we're not. We're on Social Security, both of us. But we're managing to work it out because of our following of the feelings inside, not question? Yeah, I guess I better open up the question if you have any.
Thanks. You mentioned before, as far as the devices, why they're not available right now, you're waiting for consciousness, like this people's consciousness to change. Does that mean that devices the prototypes are there and ready, or do you need to create more? So it's just a matter of waiting until people are open to accepting the idea that it could, that they won't let big government come in and shut them down, or what's holding us up? What's the next step?
Third dimension. Now, I have to divide here between the third and the fifth dimension. I'm not doing a good job of it right now, I know that, but third dimensionally, yes, we do have prototypes around. They are waiting in the wings for advancement, for the right timing to happen. But the timing doesn't come from out here. The timing comes from in here. And when it's the right time, we'll bring all of these things out. We've got them in Hawaii, we've got them in Australia, we've got them in Canada. We'll just bring them all out and say, here. But it's the timing that has to come from